Good day everyone, my name is Manaro Kamid from BSc D2B. Our topic is the consequences of high fertility, some conflicting opinion. For many years, development economics and other social scientists have debated the seriousness of the consequences of rapid population growth. On one hand, we must recognize that population growth is not the only or even the primary sources of low levels of living, eroding self-esteem and limited freedom in developing nations. On the other hand, it would be equally native to think that rapid population growth in any countries and regions is not serious. Intensifier and multiplier of this integral component. It's not a real problem. We can identify three general lines of arguments of the parts of people who assert the population of growth. It's not a cause for concern. So the first is the problem is not population growth but other issues. And second is population growth is a false issue deliberately created by dominant rich country agencies and institutions to keep LDCs in their underdeveloped dependent condition. So the last one is for many developing countries and regions, population growth is in fact desirable. So, other issues, many knowledgeable people from both rich and poor nations argue that the real problem is not population growth per se, but one of all the following four issues. Number one, underdevelopment. If correct strategies are pursued and lead to higher levels of living, greater self-esteem and expanded freedom, population will take care of itself. Eventually, it will disappear as a problem, as it has in all the present economically advanced nations. So according to these arguments, underdevelopment is the real problem and development should be the only goal. With all will come the economic progress and social mechanism that will more or less automatically regulate population growth and distribution. So the second one is world resources, deflation, and environmental destruction. So population can only be an economic problem in relation to the availability and utilization of scarce natural and material resources. Number three, population distribution. According to this third agreement, it is not the number of people per se that is causing population problems, but their distribution in space. Number four is subordination of women. As we have noted repeatedly throughout this book, women often bear the disproportionate burdens of poverty, poor education, lack of job, and limited social mobility. It's a deliberately contrived false issue. The second main line of arguments denying the significance of population growth as a major development problem is closely allied to the neocolonial dependence theory of underdevelopment. The empirical argument, 7 negative consequences of population growth. According to the latest empirical research, the potential negative consequences of population growth for economic development can be divided into the 7 categories. So number one is economic growth. Evidence shows that although it is not the main culprit behind economic stagnation, rapid population growth at the national level are often inclusive. At the household level, the evidence is strong and compelling. So the second is poverty and equality. Even though aggregate statistical correlations between measures of poverty and population growth at the national level are often inclusive, at the household level the evidence is strong and compelling. So number three is education. Although the data are sometimes ambiguous on this point, it is generally agreed the large family size and low incomes restrict the opportunities of parents to educate all their children. So number four is health. High fertility harms the health of mothers and children. It increased the health risk of pregnancy, and closely spaced birth have been shown to reduce birth weight and increase child mortality rates. And number five, foods. Feeding the world's population is made more difficult by rapid population growth over 90%. of additional EDC food requirements are caused by population increases.
Good day everyone, especially to you sir. I am Miriam Amariel from BSCD2B. This is the continuation of the report of Ms. Kamid. Goals and objective towards a consensus. In spite of what might appear to be seriously conflicting argument about the positive and negative consequences of population growth, a common ground has emerged on which many people on both sides of the debate can agree. This position is best characterized by Robert Cassin in Population Policy, a New Consensus. After decades of controversy over the issues of population policy, there is a new international consensus among and between industrial and development countries that individual countries and the world at large could be better off if population were to grow more slowly. The consequences of rapid population growth should be neither exaggerated nor minimized. Some past expressions of alarm have been counterproductive, alienating the very audiences they were intended to pursue. At the same time, claim that population growth was not all that important have had the effects of diminishing a proper concern for the subject. So, mayroong isang bagong global pinagkasunduan sa mga industriya at umuunlad sa mga bansa na dapat walang pagkakaiba sa kanilang mga diskarte sa patakaran sa populasyon pagkatapos ng mga dekada ng hindi pagkakasundo. Bukod dito, ang mas mabagal na rate ng paglaki ng populasyon ay pagiging mas mabuti para sa buong mundo. Ang alinman sa labis na pagsasaad o pagpapaliit sa mga epekto ng mabilis na paglaki ng populasyon ay angkop sa nakaraan. Ang ilang mga armes na pahayag ay nag-backfire sa pamamagitan ng pag-alis sa parehong mga madla na sinusubukan nilang i-convert. Kasabay nito ang mga pahayag na ang pagtaas ng populasyon ay hindi isang malaking bagay ay nagkaroon ng kabaliktaran sa epekto na binabawasan ang lehitimong pag-aalala para sa issue. The following three compositions constitute the essential components of this intermediate or consensus opinion. First is population growth is not the primary cause of low level of living, growth inequalities, or the limited freedom of choice that characterize most vision rather in the of poor families, especially women, and the failure of the other aspect of domestic and international development policy. Number two, the problem of population is not simply one of numbers but involves the quality of life and material well-being. Thus, LDC population size must be viewed and conjunctions with developed countries influence in relation in the quantity, distribution, and authorization of world resources, not just in relation to indigenous resources of the LDCs. Number 3. Rapid population growth does serve to intensify problems of underdevelopment and make prospects for development that much more remote. As noted, the momentum of growth means that barring catastrophe, the population of development countries will increase dramatically over the coming decades, no matter what fertility control measure or adapted now. It follows that high population growth rates, though not the principal cause of underdevelopment, are less brutal contributing factors and specific countries and religion of the world. In view of this proposition, we might conclude that the following their policy goals and objectives might be included in any realistic approaches to the issue of population growth in development countries. Some policy approaches. In view of these broad goals and objectives, what kind of economic and social policies might LDC and developed country government and international assistance agencies consider to bring about long-term reductions in the overall rate of world population growth? Three areas of policy can have important direct and indirect influences on the well-being of present and future world population. Number 1. General and specific policies that LDC governments can initiate to influence and perhaps even control their population growth and distribution. So, ang mga governments ng LDC ay maaaring gumamit ng mga patakaran upang kontrolin ang paglaki sa pamamahagi ng populasyon. Number 2. General and specific policies that can develop a country's government can initiate in their own countries to lessen their disproportionate consumption of the benefits of global economic progress. Maring limitahan ng mga patakaran ang hindi katimbang na pagkonsumo ng pag-unlad ng ekonomiya sa buong mundo. Number 3. General and specific policies that develop countries' government and international assistance agencies can initiate to help development countries achieve their population objective. So, ang mga patakaran ay maaaring makatulong sa mga umunlad na bansa sa pagkamit ng kanilang mga layunin sa populasyon. What development countries can do? Development policies are assistance for transitioning from a high growth to low growth population. These policies aim to eliminate poverty, reduce income inequalities, expand educational opportunities, provide job opportunities, provide preventive medicine and public health programs, improve nutrition, and create more equitable social services. It is not numbers per se or potential irrationality that is at the root of the LDC population problem, but rather the pervasiveness of absolute poverty and low levels of living. So, ang pagbabago mula sa isang mataas na paglago patungo sa isang mababang paglago ng populasyon ay nangangailangan ng pagpapatupad ng mga patakaran sa pag-unlad. Sa pagpapatupad ng mga patakarang ito, inaasahan ng gobyerno na wakasan ang kahirapan, bawasan ng mga pagkakaiba sa kita, dagdagan ng mga posibilidad sa edukasyon, bumubuo ng mga oportunidad sa trabaho, nag-aalok ng pampublikong kalusugan at mga serbisyong medikal na pang-iwas, itaguyod ang mga mas mahusay na nutrition, at bumuo ng mga mas pantay na serbisyong panlipunan. Ang problema sa populasyon ng LDC ay hindi sanhi ng napakaraming bilang o hindi makatawirang pagiging magulang. Sa halip, ito ay sanhi ng kung gaano kalawak ang ganap ng kahirapan at mababang pamatayan ng pamumuhay. So first, they can try to persuade people to have smaller families through the media and the educational process, both formal school system and formal adult education. Second, they can exchange family planning programs to provide health and human contraceptive services to encourage the desired behavior. Such publicly sponsored or officially supported programs now exist in most developing countries. Today, only a few countries do not have such publicly sponsored or officially endorsed family planning program. Third, they can deliberately manipulate economic intense in incentives and discentives for having children, for example, through the elimination or reductions of maternity leaves and benefits, the reduction or elimination of financial incentives, or the imposition of financial penalties for having children beyond a certain number. So, fourth, governments can attempt to coerce people into having smaller families through the power of state legislation, and such coercions. Not only is it often morally operational and politically unacceptable, but it also almost always extremely difficult to administer. So finally, no policy measures will be successful in controlling fertility. Useless efforts are made to raise the social and economic status of women and hence create conditions favorable to daily marriage and lower marital fertility. What the developed countries can do. When we view the problems of population from the perspective of global resources and the environment, as we should, the question of the relationship between population size and distribution and the depletion of many non-renewable resources in developed and underdeveloped countries assume major importances. Kapag sinusuri natin ang mga issue sa populasyon mula sa pananaw ng mga global resources at kapaligiran, gaya ng nararapat ang issue ng connection sa pagitan ng laki ng distribution ng populasyon at ang pagkaubos ng maraming hindi nababagong mapagkukunan ng mga maunlad at hindi maunlad na mga bansa ay may malaking kahalagahan. It also means that there is potentially that much less to fertilize small family farm in the less developed nation. Alternatively, it means that poor families will have to pay more often these various resources inputs. So, the last one is conclusion. We conclude with a note of optimism. Fertility rates in many of the poorest countries such as Bangladesh and most of the countries in sub-Saharan Africa have experienced an expressive decline. Population experts are now busy lowering, to at least a modest extent, their estimate of world population growth for coming decades. In no small part, this decline is the result of more widespread availability of family planning. These changes have set the stage of an opportunity for successful development efforts in the coming year, but developed countries need to do their part in providing expanded development assistance, especially efforts focused on the need and opportunity to greatly reduce the incidences of poverty which remains the biggest cause of high rates of fertility.